I gotta get you to admit you're wrong, but you still keep spewing this one thing, and I'm like, yo, Vlad is so wrong. Vlad, you are very much incorrect.
Okay, let's hear it.
On you saying, because I keep hearing you saying, if I was Diddy, I would have dipped to Russia. No, 100%. No, Vlad. Can we have a real discussion about this?
Let's have it.
Okay, you saying Diddy should have left. I think the facts is proven now. Number one, his counsel was trying to ensure to the government that he wasn't going to flee, right? They're like, hey, we have his passport. But you think that they would just allow him to go to Russia?
If you have your passport and you haven't been indicted, you could travel anywhere on earth with your passport.
Well, Vlad, you're so smart, right?
Yeah.
You're so smart in the sense of, again, we're not talking about the Edward Snowdens and these other people who they've always been like damn near world travelers. They've never just been like, yo, I'm on Star Island. You get what I'm saying?
Diddy's not a world traveler.
Diddy doesn't spend exorbitant amount of time and has like these places that he doesn't have like a crib in Bali or even
he goes to the Caribbean all the time.
To vacation.
Turks and Caicos.
Yeah, to vacation. Exactly. Okay, right? So it's like, here's the point. I know they were waiting for the indictment. You think the federal government wasted $1 million? Like, I was talking to this guy, he's a former federal agent, Myron Gaines, and he said, yo, based on the amount of effort that the government put in, he told me a stat. He said, because I was saying, I think there's some wiretaps with this. He said, I don't think there's wiretaps. I said, why? He says, well, a lot of the stuff is legacy. A lot of this stuff is from years and years ago. Yeah. They're going to rely more on eyewitness testimony and maybe of camera footage, but they didn't need to sit on the phone. He said for a wiretap for one line, for someone, just to monitor one line, the government has to pay $50,000 a month. Makes sense, right? Yeah. It could become costly now when someone has multiple phones or you're trying to, and that's just one side of the conversation. If you want to hear somebody else's, their phone. So he gave me like an estimation like, yo, this investigation is into the millions.
Yeah.
I just can't, there's no way you think if, again, two things. Where did they first stop him when they raided his house while he was boarding his jet? They know something. They see the manifest being filed. Mm-hmm. Second of all, again, don't know this for fact, but it seems to match up with why they arrested him the day before. He promised that his private jet would never be in the same city as him. He's in Manhattan. His private jet comes to Teterboro. They lock him up the same night.
Yeah.
It appears that they were ready.
Right, but he was already indicted by that point.
Yes, but again, he wasn't indicted by the time the search warrant happened. What I'm saying is that they're monitoring his movements. If he planned to move to Russia, they're locking him up on something, anything. They would have had something,
and they could try. But ultimately, you can't lock someone up unless you indict them, meaning that you have to go through a grand jury.
No, you can't.
You can get arrested.
No, well, first of all, they would probably have local police either arrest him, or what could happen, and I learned this from, again, the same guy who used to work for HSI. He was an HSI agent. There's two ways to indict people, right? The sure way is through the indictment, through the grand jury. The other way is through a complaint. Oh, you just need an agent to sign a complaint. But okay. Basically, no way they let Diddy.
Listen, Diddy If Diddy went and bought a one-way ticket to Russia from JFK, they may have swooped in and gotten him.
Of course.
Right? But what I'm saying is, at the point that you know that something's coming down the line, Diddy could get into a fucking submarine. You know what I'm saying? And pop up in fucking Moscow, and now he's there. As long as you get there, you're safe.
But Vlad, I think you're like trivializing this.
I'm not trivializing. I'm just saying, like,
Vlad.
But I can give you Edward Snowden is in Russia, and he's facing treason charges.
Okay. At what point was he in the U.S. In the U.S. though?
Hold on. Steven Seagal, bunch of rape charges, went to Russia. He's been there ever since. You can go back. Roman Polanski, like rape.
Is Steven Seagal a fugitive?
I believe so.
Is he?
Yes, he has.
He's a fugitive from justice.
Sexual assault charges in America that he's never stood trial for. He's been in Russia this whole time.
So
he's been in Russia this whole time. What's his name? Roman Polanski. He was about to get convicted of rape of a minor, and he went to fucking Europe, and he's like 91 years old. He's never been extradited back because certain European countries have certain laws where, like, I believe he was in France for the majority, like for like 30 or 40 years, because I think that the laws in France are very different than America, so France won't extradite you back to get a much harsher sentence. So he was able to go, and I think he went to Poland eventually. All I'm saying is you've seen this time and time again.
Have to do it before.
You would have to do it early, right?
The moment they do that search warrant,
it might have been too late at that point. I'm not saying that, but do you think that search warrant was a total shock? At the moment that Cassie lawsuit hit the public and all the fucking insanity happened after that, I would have just said, all right, Russia it is. Look, and once again,
Tekashi 6ix9ine said when they did a search warrant at his house, he was overseas. He says after he came back to the States, he knew it. Well, he found out his driver was telling him, so he fired his driver. But he said everywhere they went, there was these like cars just following. And subsequent, like the days following, it was very obvious. It was just like there was no familiar cars on the block. It was just all cars that just, obviously they were being watched. So yeah, I mean, I think Diddy's in a pickle. What do you think about this whole situation? Two more announcements today. One that there's a class action lawsuit. I've never seen a class action sexual abuse and assault lawsuit.
That's different. Yeah.
50 people.
Wow.
Right? And they're saying if you've been drugged or sexually assaulted, hit us up. We'll add you to the lawsuit. They're trying to get as much possible, right?
I saw this other one where it's like a girl saying that she was underage.
Yes,
and he lured her with candy. It actually said candy in the actual title.
Yeah, like, I seen Radar Online run that. Candy. And then there's the other lawsuit, which is Jane Doe, which says that she got pregnant after being given ketamine, and when she got knocked out. And she passed out. She was drugged. And she said that Young Miami called her and harassed her.
I heard about that, yeah.
What do you think about all these lawsuits? We obviously know he's in a pickle.
I mean, it's not surprising. This is what happens.
Do you believe they're true?
I believe some are true and some of them are absolute lies. I mean, I know people, like I remember Roger Bonds played me a voicemail from Diddy's private chef, talking about the abuse, how he put his hands on her and then threw her out of the house like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and she never came forward with any of this. This was just her leaving voicemails about it. I tried to incorporate that into the interview, but she said, no, I don't want to be part of this. I said, okay, cool, I'll respect that. But I heard the voicemails, and this is not someone who's even suing. There's been a lot of abuse, and ultimately, you could sue for it if you want. You probably can't press criminal charges because there's statute of limitations to it. But at the end of the day, anyone could sue anyone for anything. All you need is a lawyer to take it on contingency. It doesn't cost you any money. And it's up to the other person to spend money to defend themselves. So a lot of it's bullshit. A lot of it's going to get thrown out. Some of which are probably true and are probably going to be incorporated into the criminal part of the case. Law enforcement is very reactionary. I don't think that if the Cassie lawsuit didn't go public, I don't think there'd be a criminal investigation at all.
I agree. She's the only victim they have listed right now.
At all. If he had settled with her and the details of all this never came out and picked apart by people like you and me and everyone else, I think he'd still be hosting award shows and partying and doing the Diddy Bop and whatever else.
Who did different from him, right, and clearly learned? Jimmy Iovine. Jimmy Iovine had an allegation supposedly, I think maybe with an underage girl. She was a Jane Doe. She filed anonymously. Settled.
Yeah.
We never heard about it again.
That's it.
No one came out additionally, so he's just not in the, like Diddy's been just getting a barrage. I personally believe, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, I believe that this is only going to result in him filing bankruptcy. There's no other way. He's going to exhaust a lot of his funds with this defense. Even if he's successful, there's 12 cases of civil. There's 12 civil cases,
Yeah.
right? Then there's a class action lawsuit pending that they said they're going to file next week with a press conference, and they're going to do a press conference with 50 people. I think everyone is like, if you've ever been to a Diddy party, you felt a little wheezy, you threw up. I think everyone's going to just be filing lawsuits left and right. Even if, I'm just going to say, even if 40% of them are true, or 30%, it's probably going to exhaust his funds, right? Like,
I mean, possibly. Depends on how much money he's hiding. I mean, he's got a lot of money. I mean, you know, if he was worth $10 million, then yeah, I would wipe him out. But if he's worth hundreds of millions, how much are you going to get out these lawsuits? At the end of the day, someone who is living paycheck to paycheck, you give them $1 million, or you tell them, okay, well, we'll go to court, and 10 years later, you may or may not get a similar amount. A lot of people will take that. I mean, Cassie settled. Cassie didn't need to settle. She could have gone to court.
yeah, but a settlement for possibly $30 million.
You don't know that. I actually heard it was in the low 7 digits. That's what I heard.
Really?
Yeah.
Under 10.
Yeah. But that's also a lot of money. Like, because when it comes to something that was, you know, that is based on injury, it's tax free. Right? So if she got, okay, so let's just say you were suing for discrimination or something, right? And you get $1 million. You get the $1 million, you have to pay taxes on it. It ends up being $500,000. But if you get beat up by somebody and you get $1 million, you get to keep that $1 million, no taxes.
Really?
Yeah. That's part of the laws. You know, so let's just say let's just say the settlement was $3 million. I'm just bringing up an easy number to work with. Your lawyer gets a third, so you're left with $2 million. $2 million after taxes. That's like $4 million before taxes. Your husband is a personal trainer. You have no job. You have 2 kids. Diddy's not paying for everything anymore. $2 million is not a bad amount of money. That could last you for 5-10 years.
I haven't seen that smile on her face, and I know half of the smile is because Diddy's locked up, but that smile looked like it's a $15 million smile, man.
It might be. We'll never know because everyone signed NDAs.
I don't think he's doing another settlement. I think at this point he's going for broke.
Well, the settlement...
They got to get it back in blood on this one.
The settlement a lot of times doesn't make sense because a settlement is a private agreement, and in a criminal case, that supersedes a private agreement. So Cassie's not only got the money from the settlement, but she's going to take the stand against them. So what was the point?
I think
If he had not settled, she might be less likely to cooperate because this might affect him wanting to settle. And if he goes bankrupt and she wins, she gets nothing. You see what I'm saying? You gotta look at this thing long term, man. Like, you know, like I interviewed Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah. Very smart guy watching.
Very smart guy, billionaire. And he bought like 8% of BuzzFeed. And
Really?
Yeah. And I told them BuzzFeed ripped me off for like $50,000. Because I don't know if I told you this story.
Yeah.
But they owed me they were holding my YouTube money.
Well, have you said this story publicly before?
Yeah, I think so. I'll say it again. Yeah, they were my MCN, so they would get the money from YouTube, you know, take a cut and then pay me. But then at one point, when they got into financial trouble, they stopped paying me.
And by the way,
And it wasn't just me; it was a bunch of YouTube channels.
The reason why that was the case too is that you had to deal with Complex, but they bought Complex.
They bought Complex, so Complex got rolled into BuzzFeed. So they owed me, it was like millions of dollars at one point, and they weren't paying me. And we had to file a lawsuit. And then when they sold Complex, they were not ready to settle. And we agreed to a settlement which was $50,000 less than what they owed me. And they paid. Mm-hmm. And the reason why we did it was because we were worried that if we didn't accept a settlement, they might go bankrupt.
Yeah.
Now, they didn't, but we were worried if they did go bankrupt, then we would get nothing. So, okay, we lost $50,000. I'm not happy about that. And I told, like, you know, Vivek, I'm like, yeah, since you own 8%, you owe me like $4,000. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm joking. He doesn't owe me anything. But that's what happens. You got to, when you're suing somebody, yeah, you want to go for the gusto and you want to get 100 million or whatever else, but you got to look at it long term. What's going to happen years from now? Think about it. Like Cassie could have been like, no, I'm going to take you to court. I want to all this exposed, whatever else. This lawsuit could take 5 or 10 years to get to court. And by that time, he could be bankrupt and she could win some big settlement. But if he is bankrupt, he has no money, she'll get nothing. So do you want the guaranteed money right now? Or do you want to wait many, many years and potentially get nothing?
Yeah, no, I agree.
And even potentially lose. Mm-hmm. Think about that, because I'm sure that he has lots of stuff that's not going to make her look as much of an angel as she's presenting herself to be. I'm sure that all this prostitution stuff, she was probably involved in as well. She was fucking the prostitutes. You know, I heard she would pick out some of the prostitutes herself. And you know what I'm saying? So
she was hiring them.
Yeah, she was hiring them. So now she's procuring prostitutes. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's a crime in and of itself. So it's one of the crimes he's being charged with. So, you know what I mean? It's complex. And that's why a lot of times when you see the money, you assume it's this astronomical amount, but it isn't.
Yeah, like I kind of explained the same thing on my stream about the T.I. lawsuit. T.I. and T.I.'s daughters got this $71 million lawsuit.
Yeah, I heard it's a $17 million he's supposed to get.
I think they said it was 71. I've seen 17.
Well, I heard 71, but I heard he's supposed to get 17. I don't know.
They're not getting shit.
I'm not getting anything.
Well, here's the thing. The first time they had the lawsuit, it was a mistrial. Mm. The second time they did the lawsuit, it got dismissed. Mm. The company won. The appeal got overturned. They got 17 or 71 million, whatever that is. You think the company, even though, by the way, that toy company brings in $4 billion a year, they're still not paying that. We're going to appeal it again.
Yeah.
Right? So you won the first appeal. We're going for the second appeal. And by the time I said the same thing on stream. I was just like, if they go to settlement to say, hey, we'll give you 10 million, I think they should take it.
They should take it, yeah.
Take the 10 million. It's 3 girls. Everybody gets 3.2 mil, and call it a day.
Call it a day, yeah.
Because
what's what happens. And a lot of times also, like, when you get these astronomical amounts, if you really follow the story, like, so, this person got 100 million. You'll check back a year or two later, and it really ends up being like 2 million.
Yeah.
Or, whatever. Sometimes it's only a few 100,000. You know, this will get whittled down. This will get overturned. It'll be, because the whole point is someone who's been sued, who's also sued people and everything else like that. Like,
how do you determine damages? Like, it just kind of Google you up and be like, all right.
Okay, sorry. So there's compensatory, there's punitive. The compensatory part means to make you whole again. So let's just say that you beat me up.
Okay.
Right? And because you beat me up, I was out of work for a year. Mm. Right? And I make $1 million a year.
Okay.
So I'm going to say you owe me $1 million because I couldn't work for a year.
Okay.
Right? And then it's up to the court system and the jury to say whether what I'm saying is actually true. Did Vlad really not work for a year because he was so distraught over the beating that academics gave me? Or was I really working the whole time and I'm really lying and I only took off from work like a month and whatever else, right? So there's the compensatory, to make you whole again. Then there's punitive. Punitive is to punish the person so they wouldn't do it again. Now, if you're worth $10 million and the punitive damage is $10,000, that's not really punishing you. It's designed so you wouldn't do it again because you're being punished for something that's actually going to hurt you. So if you're worth 10 million and the punitive damage is $1 million, then it's like, okay, shit, I just lost 10% of my money. Let me think twice before doing this again. So compensatory, punitive. That's how a civil lawsuit gets put together. And the jury ultimately decides, or sometimes the judge will decide that as well. And it can be appealed.
I seen that happen with the Quavo case. Quavo slapped this parking lot attendant at $700,000. And the funny part, I was watching like bits and pieces of the defense. Quavo gets on the stand. Quavo says, I didn't punch him. He says, I slapped him. So the guy asked me, so, well, why would you slap him? He said, well, I slapped him to clear up some space. So he was in my face and I slapped him to clear up some space. Then his lawyer gets up there and says, hey, listen, we're admitting, because it's called, like, it's the clearest video I've ever seen. It's like, yeah, we're admitting our client did slap him, but what's a slap worth? Yeah. Right? And I was like, all right, well, I guess that's an angle to try to get at it. Yeah. Well, clearly the slap was worth 700,000.
Well, it probably is because of the punitive damage part, right? Now, would a slap make a person leave work? No. You go back to work the same day if you got slapped, right? But they're going to look at how much Quavo is worth financially. So let's just say Quavo is worth $50 million. And they could say, okay, $700,000 is a significant amount of money based on what he did, which wasn't that serious, but it's still punitive.
Do you think they punished? So what happened was that
they're punishing him with $700,000.
No. Well, so Quavo slapped the guy.
Yeah.
Then Quavo's guys jump on him.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the defense is going to be like, I didn't tell them to do anything to you. These guys are operating on their own volition.
Yeah, but you could make the connection that these are people that are being directed by you by some extent, and I think juries are smart enough to get that.
Okay,
and you know, if your staff beats someone up, you're responsible for that. Right? If your bodyguard beats me up, I can sue you for what your bodyguard did. It's true. That's the way it works. That's the downside of having employees or having contractors. You're responsible for their mess ups.
Well, a lot of people believe that, this is why you have the quote unquote crash dummies around you, that they'll do it, they get their hands dirty, that you can't get sued.
You will get sued. Tony Yayo broke it down. He said a broken jaw will get you $50,000 from 50 Cent. So 50 always had, his goons around him. Someone would act up, one of them would break a dude's jaw, 50 would pay him $50,000 to make it go away.
Yeah,
you think those guys
have brought it to trial? God damn it!
Yeah,
bring that shit to trial. 700,000 sounds a lot better.
Well, it went to trial.
Oh shit!
I mean the Quavo thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So,
yeah, exactly.
But I'm guessing 50,000 is like to settle.
Yeah, I mean they probably offered him 50,000 to make it go away, and he probably said no.
Yeah, I'm wondering how much they offered that guy.
I mean, well,
by the way, ironically too, the baby who slapped somebody as well, he just settled. Immediately.
Oh,
it was a guy who supposedly rented him a property.
Oh, yeah.
And he shows up and slaps the guy.
And settling, listen, as someone who's settled lawsuits with people multiple times, from the outside looking in, for people who've never been in lawsuits, have never been sued or never sued people, the assumption is, well, if I didn't do it, I wouldn't settle. And I would go to trial and I would win. Right? That's the common man's thinking. But that's not reality. Because the reality is to go to trial will cost you $300,000, $500,000. Right? And depending on what the case is like, even if you win, in a lot of cases, you can't sue the person for legal fees. You just lost. And you've paid $500,000 to win. So it turns into a equation. I remember we had this one lawsuit, and at first, a lot of times lawsuits go into mediation. And there's a mediator there who's, responsible, who's used to doing these types of things. And I remember the person suing us wanted like $600,000, and it was a bullshit lawsuit. And we were like, we're not paying anywhere near this. And basically the mediator said, and our point was, we didn't do anything wrong. This is a bullshit lawsuit. The mediator said to our face, it doesn't matter who's right or who's wrong. I'm just trying to come up with a number. And we walked out of mediation. And ultimately we settled for $75,000. But it was because we'd already spent $75,000. So it was like, okay, do we spend another $425,000 to go to court? Possibly win, possibly lose. The person who's suing us has no money, so we can't sue them for our money back. Do we just give them $75,000 and make it go away? And I think like at the time, the person who was suing us had lost their job and they wanted to settle because they were struggling financially. This was like during the pandemic or whatever else. And it was like, all right, cool. We saw an opportunity to get out of this. Now, from the outside looking in, it looks like I'm guilty, right? I'm guilty because I settled. But no, I settled because financially it made the most sense. We finally got the number down to something relatively low, and we'd already spent a bunch of money, and this was a way of getting out of it that potentially saved us triple the money. And then everyone walked away.
Yeah, and I know 50 hit somebody in the face with a mic when he was on stage. I wonder how much she's going to get. She's looking for the bag. She works at a radio station and everything. Come on now.
Yeah, but once again, he threw a mic. She managed to get hit by it. Was there an altercation that led before, did he just throw a mic and she just happened to get hit by it? Like judges are not as stupid as people think they are. Juries are not as stupid as people think they are, And some people, like a 50 or a Cardi B, is willing to prove a point by spending money on legal bills.
Yeah, Cardi B, I think, I forgot how much she said she spent for the Tasha K thing.
I think she spent like $1 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think she's recovered more than like...
Yeah, I don't think she recovered anything.
No, she did. She recovered like a couple tens of thousands.
Tens of thousands.
And then...
Which is the equivalent of nothing.
Yeah, and then I think the woman wants to settle.
Tasha?
Yeah. It wants to like, hey, listen, I could pay you this and we could just like whatever. But she already has a judgment. And I think for Cardi, it's more beneficial to have that judgment to control that person, to make sure you keep them on a leash.
Yeah.
Then you give them a get out of jail card. They give you, I don't know, whatever, and then they'll still fuck with you again.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you?
Yeah, but listen, I'm gonna say this: like, if I just cashed out, if someone bought Vlad TV for $15 million, and I just had millions sitting around doing nothing, I would go and sue people that were like using my content and doing it in a disrespectful manner and stuff like that. I would go out of my way, even if I knew I wouldn't win some of these lawsuits. I would still sue people and fuck with them. And
I think that's what 50 does.
Yeah, exactly. I would be 50. I just don't have 50 money, so I don't do it.
50, 50 made a point with the Tierra Marie thing, but 50's been on both sides of this. 50 lost the Sleek lawsuit for the Sleek audio. Yeah. He lost the lawsuit to Rick Ross' baby mama.
Correct.
But then he has some wins as well. He's the guy that's been in court a lot.
Yeah, I think he sued his lawyers and won. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, listen, 50, I remember he sued Taco Bell.
50?
Yeah. I remember I talked to him about this in person, right? Like, this is before Vlad TV. I used to just come by Gino's offices and I was doing mixtapes or whatever else. Me and him had a cool little relationship. And what happened was Taco Bell had sent out like a press release to a bunch of journalists that said, hey, if 50 Cent renames himself to 25 Cent, to promote our 25 cent tacos, we will donate a whole bunch of money to a charity of his choosing. He looked at it going like, oh, you guys want to use my name to promote your product without paying me. Okay, how much did you guys pay Diddy to do this Taco Bell commercial? Or I think Diddy was doing Burger King commercials or whatever, so he looked at what similar status celebrities were getting to do these commercials, and he sued them for that amount, and they settled. Wow. I think it was like, I don't know, 700,000 or 800,000. It was like a good amount of money, and they settled. And they even announced, yeah, we settled. 50 doesn't have a sense of humor, rah, rah, rah. But I think he had a good point, because it's like they are using his name without paying him to promote a product, and he had proof that people were getting these emails directly from Taco Bell, and he sued.
Yeah, he's done a good job of like making an example out of people, man.
Yeah. He even said, I think he said, like, I don't know if this is true or not, but he said that he realized as soon as he got on that he was getting sued a lot. So I think he said that he just put a bunch of lawyers on permanent payroll. I don't know if you could actually do that.
Yeah, no, you can. Yeah.
So I think he just he figured out that
he probably just treat like a big company. You know,
exactly.
a company has like general accounts and then
Yeah, so he just like, okay, let me just dump a couple $100,000 in this, and they're gonna just handle all my shit. Because he realized that being sued is a cost of doing business when you're a celebrity of his stature, and he just accepted it. He didn't cry about it, and he just realized he's gonna get a lot of frivolous lawsuits, and he has people that are just gonna deal with it all day long.
Oh, that's fire.